What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is Hob here, one of your hosts from the Real Fan Review. And today with me, we got my brother B.
What's up, everybody?
We got our man in the chair, Al.
How's it going, everybody?
And we got my man, Sanj.
Good evening, everybody. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, sir. And today, guys, no real movie news, no real reviews this week, just one review. The one that shall reign supreme, WandaVision finale. Episode 9, the series finale was the name of the show. And we're going to get into our thoughts, our opinions, our takes, what we thought of it, how it wrapped up everything. We're going to talk about all the different scenes that happened. This complete craziness. This has taken over our lives for the last 2 months. So let's get right into WandaVision episode 9. And of course, guys, you know, this is going to be a spoiler review. So we're going to go into all the details, all the things of all the past episodes that lead up to this episode and things that clued into other things. So we're going to do all of that today. So let's get right into it. Episode 9, guys, goes right into where we left off last week with Agatha Harkness being revealed, showing her holding on to the two kids and Wanda ready to kick some ass. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting for it.
So I have a correction from last week. Last week I was saying that Agatha, the strings that she was holding the kids with was yellow, right, just like the Mind Stone's power. And when I look back, they were not. So I was wrong. So it was purple strings that were the same color as her magic. So I was wrong about that. So just wanted to correct myself there.
Ooh, that man. It's all good, man. It happens to us, you know. We watch a lot of stuff, so. But just going into that episode, I mean, we got what we wanted to see. Right away, we got that Wanda versus Agatha fight there with the magic, and it's crazy because you start to see what Agatha really was doing was pretty much just trying to take all of Wanda's energy to make herself stronger, more powerful. And, you know, just being the Agatha Harkness that we saw from the last episode. And the fight between them was actually pretty amazing. The conversation and just to see what was going on there with the Hex as well. It's pretty nuts there. So, Brandon, let's lead us off with your thoughts on that fight between Agatha and Wanda in the beginning there.
The beginning fight? So I thought it was pretty cool, and it was I like the nod to the Wizard of Oz there with the boots after Wanda hit Agatha with the car. I actually chuckled really hard on that one. I was like, I get it. But I thought that was really cool. You know, it's one of those things where I mentioned this last week that I'm really happy that this show is a thing because Wanda was always the supporting Avenger. You know, she didn't get a lot of time. We never really got to see her fight. Like, you know, in Age of Ultron at the ending when she became an Avenger, you know, we saw her fight a little bit, but we never got to like see her really use her power and how she would fight on her own. And this was a really cool, at least the beginning of this fight was a cool way to show like, oh, this is how Wanda's going to do it. All right. So I thought the beginning of the fight was awesome. You know, I think that was a great introduction to what we're going to see later on in the fight.
Yeah, and I got another call back there for you, Brandon. When she threw the car at Agnes, she threw the car as, you know, Iron Man was distracted also in Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sanj, and your thoughts, Sanj, on the fight in the beginning there with Agatha and Wanda kind of like pretty much going off head to head there.
Well, I mean, like you said, it was interesting to see how Wanda would fight on her own, like as B was saying too. Mm-hmm. I thought that the fight got better as it went on. To me, it was a little hokey at first because it was like two sorcerers just like throwing magic at each other. So at first it was a little hokey, but as the fight went on, they definitely got better. And then the nod to the Wizard of Oz was awesome.
Yeah. And how about you, Al? I mean, like my thoughts were kind of like, I guess when I was thinking that it was going to be witch against witch, we were going to see some like maybe some magical fights, but they were pretty much just like hurling like magic balls of fire or just
great balls of fire.
Now, it made me interested to see how they were going to show Wanda grow, because Agnes's power was basically she fed off of the magic of someone else. So every time Wanda threw something, she was absorbing it and using it to take Wanda's power. So I wanted to see how they showed Wanda grow to still use her powers, but in a different way to beat her. So that was the take. I wanted to see, all right, so they're going to have to show her grow in this episode to beyond just using her power. She's going to have to become creative and more smart with how she uses it. So I wanted to see how they did that with her in the episode.
Yeah, and then right after we get that little fight there between her and Agatha, and again we see the boots on the floor underneath the car. She's looking in the window pane, and we get this reflection of Vision. And I honestly thought it was the Vision that came out of the ice cream truck or the clown truck, that they were coming in from last episode. But it was actually the White Vision, or the Vision from Sword, right? And when he got there, it looked like he was trying to be either just conversational with Wanda at first and seemed like very nice, endearing. He kind of touched her head very nicely. And then he proceeded to crush it.
I love it so much, I'm going to crush it.
And it was almost like crazy because he was just like, I heard you were powerful. Like almost like mocking her. Are you mocking me? Are you mocking me, Brandon? Then we get this new Vision. He's crushing the hell out of Wanda. And we get Vision on Vision action, Sanj.
See, that was
the way
fight.
that sounds.
Vision on Vision. That Vision on Vision action. or the Vision on Vaishon.
Oh, Vaishon.
No, so that was the fight that I wanted to see, because I wanted to see how they would approach this fight, because we already know that Vision sucks in a fight, right? So through all the Marvel movies we've seen that Vision has been in, that he's been in a fight in, he sucks. He totally sucks in a fight. He gets beat up way too easily for someone that's supposedly wielding an Infinity Stone. So now
he screws up too hard too.
Right, exactly. So now we have Vision versus Vision, and they supposedly both can't fight. So how's this fight gonna go down? You like almost want to see like two people like slapping at each other, right? But honestly, it was really good. They had a very, very interesting approach to the fight, where although they were physically fighting, Vision was also trying to reason with the White Vision to say, hey, like, let's talk about this. Like, there's got to be a way for us to figure this out.
Only a Vision on Vision and fight can have a conversation in it.
Right. And then he finds a way, to get to them. He's like, well, my programming is to destroy the Vision. He's like, well, I'm not the real Vision, so there's the flaw in your programming. And then it stops the other Vision. He's just like, wait, you're right.
Please elaborate.
Exactly. And then, he goes into is it the Perseus ship?
Ship of Theseus.
Yes, the ship of Theseus analogy. And I thought it was awesome that they used that analogy to have the two of them come to an understanding, right? And then, Vision goes, well, Wanda's Vision, is what he does. He gives the White Vision back all of the memories, or helps him to clear up all of the memories. And you can see in that moment, like when he's just like, I'm Vision, and but he's having like some sort of existential crisis at that moment. So it's like, what does this mean for me?
Yeah, and then Al,
and then it just flies off. So I mean, I thought that was really good. I was more interested in how they would approach that. The only thing lacking, I think, from the Vision on Vision fight is that he just flies off and there's no other resolution. I wanted to see another interaction between the White Vision and Wanda after him getting his memories back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I really feel like they could have done that as well and put that in there. It would have taken but a minute or two to just give us a little taste of what it was going to be like between the two of them. And they didn't do that. That's the only thing I say I was very disappointed about.
Yeah, I was gonna say Al with the that whole, what was it, the boat of Thesis?
Yeah, ship
That
of
whole
Theseus.
explanation. You know,
Yeah.
I even had to, like, the first, usually the first viewing, I watched it all the way through. When he started talking about it, I was like, pause.
Google.
Did one of
Google.
these where you hold your chin with your fingers and look up.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, damn, that shit makes some sense right there, and it's also confusing.
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, if you replace all the parts of the ship, is it still the ship?
It by name only. No, but and then the other half of that, if you take those pieces and put them back together separately after fixing them up and restoring them, is that new ship that you've put back together now? So to go back and forth, I can see why it was causing him the dilemma. But
That broke me too.
but the aspect of the the aspect of the fight that I liked was they went back to the Endgame scene where the Infinity War, where he goes to take out the Mind Stone.
Mind Stone, yeah.
And he finally did what everybody was saying. Why didn't he just phase out?
For real. Plot hole.
This time he phased out and they couldn't grab him.
Well, or maybe Thanos with the Reality Stone, he could stop him from phasing. Let's just say that Thanos' power with the other Infinity Stones inhibited his ability to phase. How about that? Because he in that scene also right prior when Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster armor was flying at him, he phased him out. He phased him so that he flew right through him. So it stands to reason that if he could make somebody phase, he could inhibit somebody from phasing, right?
Nice, like that.
I mean, to be
Sans
honest,
for the save.
if this grimace-looking motherfucker grabbed me by the forehead, I'd be scared too.
Brandon, man, in the beginning of that Vision versus Vision fight, I don't know if you recall, but there was a scene where the Wanda Vision threw White Vision into a trailer, and that shit exploded like it had tons of C4 in it. What the hell was that?
It needed to.
No, it was an RV, and like she threw him into like where the gas tank is.
Dude, that shit reminded me of Superman Man of Steel. Whenever they were throwing them through people all over the place, there was things like huge explosions that were like,
nah. You know what
it was a bicycle, man.
Yo, it Kansas is explosive, all right?
It reminded me of Transformers. I think Age of Extinction, when Optimus Prime is in the barn and he busts out of the barn to come save them, but it's a big explosion for no reason. Like, busting out of a barn will not cause an explosion, but for some reason it's a Michael Bay movie, so of course it has to be an explosion, right?
Yo, he hit
like
every
that.
tractor on the way out.
Yeah.
He blew up all the tractors on the way out.
Pretty crazy, man. But go for it, B.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, the fight itself was actually pretty cool, like the choreography and the way that they did it, because they were kind of both phasing through each other's punches and then unphasing and locking their hands inside of each other, flying, shooting the lasers out of each other's heads. It was pretty cool to see, you know.
You know, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound as cool anymore. they were punching each other, but then they started holding hands. And then after they stopped holding hands, they were shooting laser beams at their foreheads. It don't sound cool anymore when you say it like that. But the scene was very cool to see.
Real nice, Brandon.
And then they started holding hands.
Yeah, man.
I mean, to be honest,
holding hands and grabbing butts.
Synthesoid butt. So I thought the scene was awesome. You know, as quick as it came and went, you know, I was super interested, like you said, like how Vision was going to end up fighting, and to see them doing the phasing, you know, utilizing fake vision, you know, what was it, situational vision or computational vision, what they were calling him at the end of it, you know, using his Mind Stone to shoot a beam, the other Vision using his little chip thing there to shoot a beam, you know, because it wasn't a Mind Stone anymore.
Oh no, he's conditional vision.
Conditional. Thank you. That's like situational. As of right now, I think actually one of my favorite parts of that fight scene was when Conditional Vision was talking to White Vision, to convince him that he was Vision. You know, and in doing so, you could see the look on conditional Vision's face where he also kind of realized that I'm not the real Vision. Like in delivering that line, he stopped for a second and like his face kind of went down. And I guess I took it as him realizing he wasn't Vision, you know, because that kind of also goes into what happens in the rest of the episode for him. So I thought that was a cool, like endearing moment for him to have his realization as well, even though he found out the episode prior from Darcy that, you know, Vision had died. It was interesting to see that he also had to realize that he wasn't Vision.
Well, no, that was a confirmation of like, at that point, he didn't know if he was some resurrected form of Vision or just some figment of Wanda's conjuring or imagination. So
Yeah,
we
he
still
didn't know.
in his mind, he could still be like, all right, well, I died, but they took my body and resurrected me, or Wanda did that. But now he knows, like, all right, I'm like a figment of her imagination, and that is actually the physical, the real physical Vision. But at the same time, the Vision itself, like they always said, that Vision is a conglomeration and layer upon layer of Tony, of Jarvis, of Ultron, of the Mind Stone. So it's like Vision's always been more than just, you know, one thing. And then the White Vision, it was the physical body of Vision, but it didn't have any of Vision's memories or personality or feelings or emotion or anything like that. And then Wanda's Vision or the conditional Vision was not the physical Vision, was an apparition, but it had Vision's personality and Vision's emotions and everything that Vision was to Wanda. So that's very much, to me, that's very much a real form of Vision as well. That's who Vision was to Wanda. So they're both not Vision and they're both Vision at the same time.
Ship a thesis. So then, while this is all happening, you know, you still have Vision and Vision kind of like separate, and Wanda's still fighting Agatha somewhere, but we'll get to her back to her soon. But it cuts to a scene that I think kind of disappointed a lot of fans because it was built up by us ourselves, the fans, the community out there, but also I think that we were kind of teased by what Marvel was doing as well. So the scene is we get to Agnes's house and we're in the second floor, looks like it, or a man cave. And Monica's being held by Pietro, or fake Pietro, right? I think we would call him. And what's happening here is, you know, she's being held. She can't get out. He's using his speed, and he also has that, you know, I guess it's either kinetic energy where he hits her with a finger, and she's like hurt completely. And you know, we you're the worst, Brandon.
I have been hurt completely. Oh my God, I have been hurt completely.
So we find out that this version of Pietro is actually Ralph. He's the Ralph
owner.
Right? Ralph Owner. Terrible joke.
I literally thought they were gonna like throw us a bone there and be like Ralph Bonner, and they were like, I'm like, you're not gonna say Boner. I'm like, it's Boner.
Ralph
It's Boner.
Boner.
Oh man, so bad. Al, what was your take when you saw that our Quicksilver from the X-Men universe is Ralph Boner, and this is the Ralph that Agnes has been talking about from the first episode?
Actually, I was a little disappointed because I was hoping that they were going to do something that he was Quicksilver, and that somehow she had taken him from, I guess, that reality to bring him to this one, since the original from our reality was dead and on the other continent. So to make it that he was basically a nobody from the neighborhood that she just grabbed and used, and just gave him those abilities to mimic her brother. It was a little disappointing, and actually a little surprising too, because if you go through all the trouble of bringing Evan Peters in, and he's not some kind of a plot device to move the mutants or X-Men in or something. I don't know. And then he's like, it looks like he might have been like an aspiring actor or something along those lines, because the shot looked like a headshot.
Yeah.
And it looked like a headshot from like years ago. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
no, I was a little disappointed that he turned out to be like Ralph, just somebody from the town that she took over and was controlling.
Gotcha, man. Now, how about you, B man? What was your take on that, man? Seeing that guy that being just regular Ralph is this guy?
I mean, my
Boner.
only thing, like, Ralph Boner. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't disappointed by the fact that, like, he wasn't an X-Men setup or multiverse setup. My only disappointment, and I won't say really disappointed, I wasn't sure if he was the witness, like that missing witness. You know, I was hoping they would allude to, like, finishing that connection. You know, if he was the one. But that was really it. Like, other than that, like, I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was, like, groundbreaking. You know, I thought it was funny more than anything. I was like, oh man, Ralph Boner. I'm like, oh gosh, you know. And for that to kind of, I think my only disappointment was that it ended so quick. It was just like out of nowhere. This guy is so fast, but then she grabs him and body slams him, and then rips off his necklace. This guy who hurt her completely with this flick. You know, like, to see her take him down, you know, like that. Like, I was like, oh, all right, Ralph Boner's
That's
done.
resolved.
Like, that's it. So, like, yeah, it was just too quick. Like, it seemed like it just needed to be a fast kind of a setup. But I was like, you know, I could have used her trying to figure out how to, like, trip him or something. Like, you know, like.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then Sanj, we get back to the fight there between Agnes and Wanda there, and she takes her back into the middle of the town. And in the middle of the town there, I think Agnes's way of kind of like getting into Wanda's head was like pretty much just showing her truth, showing her what she's been responsible for, what she did. I think she released, is it Sally? Was it the main
Dottie?
housewife? Dottie, right. I guess she released Dottie from her mind control from Wanda, and she asked Wanda if she could just see her daughter. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't believe that. And, you know, first thing Wanda says was, you're doing that. You're making her say that. So it's like almost like she was still almost in denial that she's in control of all this stuff, man. So what was your thoughts with that part there?
Well, I thought it was interesting, coming face to face with herself moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because she'd been very self-centered about what she was doing in Westview. It was really all about her and dealing with her own trauma or not dealing with her own trauma and just finding some way to cope. And then she really you see that she really hadn't taken into account, because she was trying to tell him, she's like, no, you guys are happy, you know, I'm taking care of you, and like, you aren't in pain, and I'm doing all this stuff for you, and, you know, I'm making it so that it's easy for you. And they're like, no, you're not. So it was a real come to terms moment that you could see that Wanda was in some serious denial about what she was actually doing, you know. And then the fact that it really broke her, you know, in that moment, and you almost felt bad to see her broken again, you know, because we've seen her broken so many times by events that have happened throughout, you know, the movies and the series and everything. So that was a crazy scene.
Yeah, man, like I was saying, that part got to me pretty much, because I was like, wow, she's still in denial. She's still not realizing the effect that she had. And then one of the things that also got me was in that moment where she was trying to get them to stop asking her to stop, or all the questions she was getting about what she was doing. Her reaction to it was to put these like almost like chokers on the people in the town for a second. They were all choking and holding their necks and stuff. You know, Al, when you see that and you see how she was not even in control of that part almost, you know, she released the chokehold on them, and then she's back to, you know, trying to talk with Agnes and fight with Agnes there. What was your thoughts with all that there?
It actually made me wonder how we were going to resolve that she's not a criminal. Like, because, you know, she's...
Yeah.
Because think about it, like Agnes was saying, she was torturing. Heroes don't torture, and she was torturing these people for weeks. Yeah. I mean, mentally, physically, she had them in isolation. She was
emotionally,
like in any way you name it, she was, you know, suppressing these people against their will. So to now have her, oh, I'm sorry, and now she's not, doesn't answer for any of that. it made me wonder, okay, how do you end this show so that we can all justify that she's not going to jail?
Yeah, right. So look at her like you're the Avenger.
Yeah, and for a second, it made me realize, like, yo, is Hayward really a dick? Like, think about it. All these people were being put through this, and he's aggressively trying to stop
Hayward
it.
is definitely a dick. He is
No, I know,
definitely
but
a dick
they went
because
overboard.
his whole thing, he wasn't trying to save nobody. He was just trying to get Vision back online.
No, yes, because he's part of the military, but his motives for getting the people out, because all he really wanted her to show him was how to get it back online, but he didn't create the town. He was reacting to it. So yeah, he took advantage of a situation to say, oh wait, I've been trying to get this online. Let me see if she can do it. But at the same time, he was reacting to something that we now know she did all on her own. He didn't do this. Like, he was prompting her to put Vision online in the lab. But once she left, he didn't make her go do any of this. So it made me, for a second, up until later, they really make him the dick by having him shoot at the kids. But up until that second, like, I'm like, okay, wait, is Wanda really the villain? Like, I still was for a second was like, yeah, she may be an Avenger and everything, but if you step back and look at the whole scenario, she's the bad guy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And B, I mean, right there after that scene, this is when the rest of Sword gets in there because she releases the hex. She feels bad for the people in the town. She goes, you know what? I'm going to let you guys go. She makes us a break into the hex. You can see the hex is like these, hex all around her and on top as well. So it's like encased in her magic power there. And she opens it up for the people to leave, but then Sword takes it as an opportunity to go inside and go get Vision or go get her pretty much. And, signs led to it right there where he was saying, out also, you see the director Hayward there come in and he's got that one mission, which is to either end this in the best way he can with violence or, however way he was trying to end it, because it was pretty deep there, and he get the Vision there. But then you get the kids coming in, Brandon, and the kids were trying to help. And she's like, I think that was one of my best lines in there was when she was just like, I know you guys didn't expect this, but you were born for this. I thought that was awesome, man. And what do you think about those kids going after them?
I think that was a nice Young Avengers nod. Like showing off. Like, it's funny because she said that like you weren't trained for this, but you were born for this. And all of a sudden, these guys were just ready to fight. Like, and they did awesome. And I thought it was a cool scene, and I'm watching, I had this big smile on my face because I'm like, this is cool. I was like, these kids are kicking ass, and they're doing a great job. And, we see Monica Rambeau get into the fight as Photon, and she's doing her thing, and so to see kind of like the mix between these guys doing their stuff, I was like, this is awesome. I was like, what an awesome scene to have her do her thing and the kids do that. It was cool.
Yeah, man. And then the next thing we get is Wanda trying to convince Agnes to either stop or just to take her power, pretty much. I think Wanda kind of just like, you know what, you want it, have it. And she was giving her all the fireballs of magic there, giving it to her to give her power away. And then we get to the part where I think it's that Wanda pretty much tricks Agnes into giving her power by doing the hexes or what are they? The runes?
The runes.
The runes.
Yeah. Like, I thought it's funny because I watched it a second time. You can see her missing almost on purpose, throwing things against the wall. And I guess that's when she was putting those runes up there, and you see this magical moment here. Now, Sanj, what was your take on that, man, with Wanda and Agnes being, I guess, Wanda being trickful there, tricking her into giving her power and all the power and forming the Scarlet Witch?
Oh, well, I knew exactly what Wanda was doing when she was throwing the firebolts or the fireballs at Agnes, and then some of them were missing, and then you see them going around and around. I'm like, I know what she's doing. It was masterful because Agnes had set up her power in such a way that anything that gets thrown at her, she absorbs, and it makes her stronger. So Wanda now had to outthink her as well. So you're looking at it wondering like, well, what is hitting the side of the hex going to do? But then when you realize, like, oh, I get what she's doing. And then she goads Agnes into, into using her power, and then she realizes she can't use it, and then it's like, this, it sets her up really well for that fall. So that was really cool how they approached that scene.
I think even going back, like, when they first, before they started doing all the flying fighting, just a cool callback to Age of Ultron, when Agnes is standing on the building and Wanda does that creep, like, come up behind her and, like, mess with her mind thing. I thought that was
the red wiggly
cool.
woos.
The red wiggly woos. And this is that cool little creepy, like, walk up behind her thing. I was like, oh, that's so sick.
Yeah.
I was like, nice callback. But that was cool, As I agree with Sanj, like, when she started hitting the wall, I'm like, yo, she got bad aim. I was like, those fireballs, man, you can make them bigger or something. Like, you got some terrible aim. You keep hitting that wall. It's like, yeah, you rusty.
Yeah, man. And then Al, man, we get the reveal, man, where she takes in all the powers, and it was kind of like hinted at in the last episode when she had the vision from the Mind Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the forming of the little headpiece there. The outfit comes out. I mean, what'd you think of Scarlet Witch and all her goodness there in that costume?
I thought they finally made her on the level of all the, because I think Brandon said it a couple times that she was coming off more of a background, because even her costume in the movies seemed lower end compared to everybody else's costumes and get up. Yeah, it looked like she just went to the closet, threw on a jacket and a black pair of slacks and ran out. But now she looked legit. I mean, I can see where a couple of people have made the comparisons to her outfit to Magneto's.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I like the touch because somebody on YouTube was pointing it out that she has the 3 colors of the powers that she absorbs. So she has her scarlet colors, that she has the purple from Agnes, and she has blue outlines from the original, which is from the flashback. So I thought it was a good way of incorporating all of those into the design and bringing her up to the scale of the others in terms of costume design.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That costume was amazing to see her in all glory. And even when she floated down, it was like she was in complete control. And it looked like Agatha was kind of falling down, and she kind of like gracefully let her fall to the floor there and everything. And, we get the resolution of it where she, I guess, is now completely the Scarlet Witch in complete control of herself. She admits later on down the road she has a lot to learn still, but in that moment she was in complete control. She decided she wanted Agnes to be the nosy neighbor from here on out. And I found it kind of like a nice little thing where we know we're probably going to see her again, because she's just like, if I need your help, I know where to find you. So it's like, okay, so we'll save her for later for another movie or something else down the road. And I think from there we get I guess she's kind of cleaning up her mess. And this is where we get into the realness of what this series has been about, which is her depression, her way of handling everything that's happened to her in her life, which is this anger that's building in, this depression, this feeling like I think she described it as a wave of sadness at one point as well. And it's crazy because, Vision earlier in the episode was like, she said she could take care of it. And he looked at her and he goes, can you? Like insinuating, can you get rid of all this stuff? Can you do this? Are you able to let go of all of this stuff? And in that moment, you could see that she reached that final stage of depression, which is acceptance, because she kind of just looked at him. I think what was that Vision said? He said something about, I see that you've made a mess of where we live. It's a fixer-upper, but not for us. Dude, yeah. Right there, I knew it. Right there, I knew it, man. And B, man, lead us back to the house, B. I can't do that part, dude.
It was an interesting thing because I like the way they ended this. When you can tell, like, she's bringing down the barrier and she's putting the boys to sleep for the last time. She thanks them for choosing her to be her mother, their mother. Sorry, and she's telling them she loves them, and all. It was a really graceful way of ending it, and having even Vision kind of choked up a little bit too, saying goodnight to the boys and that he loves them. Because in knowing that this is also it for him in some way. I thought that was very it broke my heart a little bit. but also at the same time, like, you know what? I can see the rain coming from behind. I ain't going to sleep. I'm not putting my head down to sleep. I can see the shit out the window. That's not that far, like. But from there the kids go to sleep, and she has her last talk with Vision, and in Vision asking kind of like what made him. How did she make him, or what makes him, in a way? And she told him that he was the remnant of the Mind Stone within Wanda. And I thought that was cool because we saw Vision being made from that yellow energy from the Mind Stone, but it was cool to see how she acknowledged that as well. Like, she understood that the Mind Stone within her made Vision come to fruition, come back. And then they had their little heartfelt goodbye. And I like that, that line he made up where you shouldn't say goodbye to anybody in the dark. I thought that was a cool little touch there.
Yeah.
And then,
like,
then the
that's
way,
not a
yeah.
thing. That's not a thing. You're right. It's not a thing.
I thought it was a very touching way to go, and then everything kind of comes over, and she gets back into her bum outfit. Like, she looked like a straight up bum. A little Toyota Prius is sitting in the driveway again. But it was a very touching goodbye, and almost in a way where you had to wonder whether this was, like you said, like, Wanda accepted her depression and her grief, but was this Wanda getting rid of it or relieving herself of it? Finding comfort in knowing that she's loved, and there's a way to find love in a way. It left that question there: is this the moment Wanda understands that she can find happiness again? And it left us with that question because it didn't necessarily answer it, before she left town.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. I mean, that last scene in the house was one of the hardest parts to watch of this thing, because once, like, I had a hope that the kids were going to make it out of there. I kind of knew Vision wasn't going to make it out of there, but the kids, I thought they were going to make it out of there somehow, some way, with some magic or something. Mm-hmm. And when I saw them disappearing in the earlier scenes there, when they were doing the big fight and she was taking the hex down, I was like, oh shoot, they're done. As soon as I saw them turning into like what Vision was turning into, I'm like, they're done. They can't make it out of this thing. You know, and again, that was probably the hardest thing, was watching them say goodnight to the boys. Oh, dude, that was so bad for me. That was I teared up for right there, real quick. Because that was touching. And then of course, like you just said, Brandon, it was a sweet goodbye, with Vision there. And how about you, Son? What you thought of the goodbyes there with the Vision and the kids, man?
I thought they did it in such a way to make us really, really feel emotional about it, with the putting the kids to sleep, and just like that's the last time they're gonna put the kids to sleep, and the kids know what's going on. They know they can't survive outside of the hex, and they know that their mom is taking down the hex. So, and again, just to have Wanda lose her family again, was just a lot to deal with, from an emotional standpoint. And then the scene between her and Vision was just so touching. How he was like, well, we've said goodbye before, so it's reasonable, or stands to reason, that we'll say hello again. And he just puts it in great perspective for her. He's like, at one point I was a stone, at one point I was a computer program, and now I was a polymorph body or whatever. And he's like, and now I was a memory made real. He's like, who knows what I'm going to be in the future, So that was really, really nice. He gave her hope that something else could be for the two of them,
Mm-hmm.
So I like that they approached that way.
Yeah, man. And then now, man, we have her leaving the plot of land that she got there, and walking through the town, because apparently, like, it was nighttime in the hex, but once that hex went through and washed away, it was still like early in the afternoon kind of look and feel of town there. And she saw the way that the townspeople were looking at her, and she meets up with Monica Rambeau in the middle of the center there. And Monica tells her, they'll never know what you sacrificed for her. And she goes, it doesn't matter. It'll never change the way that they look at me, the way that they're looking at me now, Yeah. And I again, it's just like you were saying earlier, Al. She really is kind of the villain in this story, You know, she did some things that I wouldn't blame people for not forgiving her for. You know.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that ending there with Wanda and even Monica? Monica even admitted saying, "Hey, if it was me, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
if I had the power, I would."
yeah, it's just that. I mean, you can know that you can kind of sympathize or empathize with what she did because maybe you can say, well, if I was in that position, like Monica said, I would have done the same thing. I would have brought my mother back. I would have done this. But it still doesn't address the fact that she held those people at all that time. I mean, to the point where she held this woman's daughter locked up in a room for all these weeks.
Right.
So, nobody's going to forgive that. And I like the fact that they acknowledged that, like they didn't say all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, your kids are gone. Vision's gone. Oh, we're so sorry. No, they were still pissed. They didn't just ease out into a happy ending all around, so even though she lost everything, it didn't restore everybody's faith in her. But the only thing with the ending that it did make me realize was a hole that, maybe you guys can seal up for me. She collapsed the hex, right?
Right.
So, and her punishment to Agnes was for her to live out as the nosy neighbor in the hex. Mm-hmm. So when she collapsed the hex, doesn't she just, in essence, release Agnes and she's now Agatha Harkness again?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, man. But
so
most
that was the
likely
shortest
they're gonna write
punishment.
it where, yeah, I'm sure they that was a little rewrite that needed to be fixed.
Well, also Agatha told her at the beginning that, or at some point near the beginning of the show that, oh, well, you tied their existence. They can't exist outside of here because you don't know how to cast spells. You tied their existence to this hex that you made. So then what Agatha is saying is that if you knew how to cast the spell better, you knew how to do this better, you could totally make their existence independent of anything else. So now that she knows she can do that, she can put Agatha under a spell and have it be an independent spell, not tied to the hex or anything like that, so that she can find her whenever she wants her.
Yeah, no, so she's definitely going to still be the nosy neighbor at some point when they come back to revisit her, in the next big Marvel MCU thing or even in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. She'll come back there.
I'm just wondering who's going to be the one to find her first.
Oh,
Mordo.
Well, we'll see, man. And that's pretty much WandaVision episode 9, the finale there. So now we're going to get into some of the questions that I have for the fellas and some of the thoughts and stuff that we were going to go into. There were 2 post-credit scenes, so we'll talk about those post-credit scenes as we go along with these questions, because some of these questions deal with those post-credit scenes as far as like what it's hinting at for the future and everything. But I want to talk about the episode 9 here. And B, why don't you lead me off on this, man? After watching 8 weeks worth of Marvel goodness and WandaVision, were you okay with the way that they wrap things up? Are you okay with the entire series? And was it a good series for you?
I had to take this in stride because in watching the end of this episode, I was like, yo, that was a good series. I'm like, I like that a lot. And then I had to like think about it and what we do here every Sunday, and kind of how when you watch episode, you want to make sure you got everything. So you're watching the YouTube, you're going on IGN, you're checking through all these things, and we spent 9 weeks speculating on the things we wanted to see, or the things we thought we were going to see. Who's the villain? Who's the this? Who's the that? And, you kind of get this like moment of disappointment where like a lot of the things didn't happen.
Right.
Not a lot happened. You didn't get these huge cameos. You didn't get all of these big things. We didn't see Mephisto. We didn't see Chthon or Nightmare or anything more than Wanda's story. And I had to like sit there and realize, I think as Marvel fans, and this being like the first thing we've gotten all year since the pandemic hit, that like, we've been waiting so long to have something from Marvel that now that we have this, we wanted so much out of it because we were missing so much of superhero stuff. But like when you look at the rudimentary of what the story was, I thought it was such a great story revolving around Wanda and her story, and not what I wanted out of it, and I if I was going to rate this series based on the series alone, I'd give it a solid 9 because I thought it was great. If I rate the series based on what I wished it had done because of all the Marvel stuff, it gets like a 7, But in honesty, I thought the series, once I took that Marvel stuff out of my mind and focused on WandaVision, it was an incredible series from start to finish.
Gotcha, man. And Al, how about yourself, brother, man? I mean, did this wrap up nicely for you? Did you like the series in total?
Well, just like B said, if when I take out my, are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? Or that? When I take all of that out, the show for what it was real good. It played out the story it gave us from the beginning. It didn't give us more, it didn't give us less. It gave us the story they were presenting to us. It just left me with 2 questions though. One, who was the witness? They never identified the witness or what was the reason for the FBI coming in the beginning and sending Jimmy. Also, who was what was this big thing that Agnes warned her that, you don't know what you've just unleashed? They didn't hint to it. Like you said, we're going to talk about the after credit scene, but they never address it. So I'm like, so what did she just unleash? Like what, so otherwise I think they did a good job. So
Al, I actually got somewhat of an answer for you for that one, because we've seen the Darkhold before in the MCU. The Darkhold has been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Marvel's The Runaways. Now, I think The Runaways isn't so much canon anymore, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where I believe is still mostly canon, the Darkhold showed up. Not anymore, because it's going to say the Darkhold... because it showed up with the Ghost Rider and Mephisto.
Right, but you saw that the book completely looks different now. Yeah. So that means they
glossed over that part.
Because I was going to say, now with the Darkhold, it seems like we're going into the Mephisto realm of things because Ghost Rider had shown up before.
Yeah.
So that was okay. All right.
Man. And unfortunately, Al, I think that the witness was just the way for us to say, why was the FBI there? Yeah. No more than that. Once we said, this is why Jimmy Choo is there in the show, that's why. It's because there was a witness there. That's their explanation for getting him there. You know what I mean?
And so I'm just not used to them having something that big that never gets explained. Usually they're good with wrapping stuff like that up. So I was just, but otherwise, like I said, if you take away your expectations of what you thought they were going to do with the show and just take it for what they gave you episode to episode, I think they did a good job. It was definitely a good series.
Oh, they did a great job with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sans, what's your thoughts, man? I mean, the series, it comes to an end. I think, to Al's respect there, where he was saying that, this his expectations. Let's not also give Marvel an out either. When they kept making it like the engineer was coming soon, that's not us. That was them. You know, when they put freaking Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, that's them. You know what I mean? But in overall, man, what'd you think of the series, son?
I thought it was great because it gave us an in-between and expand the next phase. And especially in the end credit scene, the second end credit scenes, how she hears her, you see her going through the dark book there, and then she hears her children. So it really intrigues you. Do they still exist? Do they not exist? What are they? Or what's going on? So it definitely gave us so much backstory into Wanda and really transitioned her from being a peripheral character to clearly she's going to be a main character in the next phase and central to whatever is going on. So I thought it was really good in that way, and it did good with giving us a lot, but not. I still don't know what's going to go on, right? I have more questions now. They gave us a lot, and I still have more questions now than before, and that'll push us into the next phase.
Yeah, man. Same for myself, man. I really enjoyed the series, and the fact that every week we were discussing and thinking our own theories, our opinions on what was happening and what we thought was going to lead to. Yeah, that
every week,
helped.
wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Like I said, I think for like 5 weeks straight, I was like, Wanda's doing all of this. I'm like, oh no, Wanda's not doing all of it. No, Wanda's doing all of it. So it was just going back and forth because it was always like going back and forth in the show. As far as like some of the stuff that they did, though, I do agree that I was a little let down because I feel like they were kind of propping it up to be something special and it wasn't. But at the same time, like Brandon said, if you look at it as what it was just doing, which was telling us Wanda's story, man, it did such a good job, man, because we didn't really, not that we didn't really care about Wanda. She did her thing in those movies, but at the same time, to see everything that she went through, and this story was just so damn entertaining to watch every week, to wonder every week what was going to happen next was just amazing, man. So that was cool, man. Now, I just want to ask you guys now this question here, because when we saw this episode, I know probably we thought that this guy disappears into the sky with a white vision there. He doesn't come back. So I'm going to ask you, Al. I mean, if Wanda's vision gave White Vision the memories, the data, the information to know that he is Vision, and he says, "I am Vision." Why didn't he go talk to his girl, dude? He just bounced.
Or help her, because the military was coming for him. Why didn't he? That's one of those holes that I'm not used to them leaving. They needed the constructed vision, I guess. What are we calling them? The constructive vision. The chance to play out the story, be the dad, fight with his family and everything. And you couldn't do that if the White Vision was there. But,
right.
But to your point, maybe it broke him, because in essence, he's still at that point, he was still mostly acting like a computer program. So you may have given him the memories, but that's a lot of memories.
Error.
But a lot of
got
memories.
Got that Trojan horse in there now. Yeah. Got that Trojan horse.
So maybe they had it that he went off somewhere to settle with who he really was at that point.
Gotcha. How about B? Is there anything in the comics as to what happens with this version of Vision, or is it just this is it?
I mean, the Vision Quest comic where White Vision is a thing, like he's just an asshole. Like he's basically what Ultron wanted in the first place, but in superhero type form. Like he's an asshole, doesn't like people, doesn't like humans, and that does get resolved towards a lot of the storyline where he gets his compassion back through his love for Wanda. So my assumption is that in the Doctor Strange movie, something's going to happen where Wanda's about to die, and in comes Vision, just in the nick of time to save Wanda. So, like Al said, I think when, at this point, he wasn't Vision. He understood I am Vision, got a flood of 5 years worth of memories, and I think, like you said, like, I don't know if it broke him, but, you have to then question everything that you have existed or have gone through, considering you've only been online for an hour, so I think he had to go, put it all together and make sense of it. And he's going to show up again in Doctor Strange 2.
Gotcha, man. And then Sanj, you kind of led into it earlier with the post-credit scene there with Wanda. We get her in a cabin somewhere. It looks like Colorado, from the mountains and the streams and everything. It looks like Denver, Colorado somewhere. And she's out front doing something, just like chilling, sitting, reading a book, and then she goes inside to go get a tea. But then it pans past her, and I'm like, oh, where are we going? And she is doing the same thing that Doctor Strange was doing when he was studying the magic stuff,
right? It was
from
like
the books.
Exactly identical scene.
Yeah, he was doing the what is it? Ran the astral
form
projection.
Yeah. Astral projection there. So I mean, you see her; she's doing the same thing as Doctor Strange was doing, but she's reading from the Darkhold, the evil book, the Book of the Dead. Does this make you believe that she is the villain in the Doctor Strange, or what do you think is going to happen there with Wanda?
I don't know that she's going to be the villain in Doctor Strange, but you could see that from the name of his movie, Into the Multiverse of Madness, it could be possible that by unleashing this power, that she broke something in the multiverse that she's not going to be responsible for fixing. So I don't necessarily know that she's going to be a villain, but she's going to be central to whatever needs to get done. And remember, she's saying that she promises to learn about her powers. And Agatha did mention the Sorcerer Supreme. So the fact that she didn't know about any of this before, I think it's more of a thing where she seeks out Strange and tries to help him. I mean, tries to get him to help her to answer some questions.
Right. No, no. And then Al, I mean, if you hear in the background of that scene as well, you kind of hear the kids screaming in the background or asking for help in the background. So it does sound like those kids are going to come into play again.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if that's what leads to the multiverse, is her using what she's learned from the Darkhold to find where those voices just came from. So, I mean, that's good. It's a good lead into the next one, but I'm going to try to keep my theories and plots that I think they might go down to myself and just let them play out the story and enjoy what they give us. Because there's a lot of ways that they can go with that. So I'm going to try to keep my enthusiasm to a minimum.
I'm not excited. I got no theories.
I don't want to get disappointed.
Oh, man. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, again, I think we were all kind of like going in from the comic books thinking we were going to see Mephisto at the least. You know, when the kids disappeared, I was just like, oh, come on. Here we go. Mephisto time. And there was no Mephisto. So I don't know, man. And man, you end us off tonight, man. What was your thoughts at the end of this with seeing her looking at the Darkhold there? And also just really quick, because Monica's end credit scene wasn't anything crazy huge, but it was basically, you know, one of the Skrulls there was talking to her, saying that somebody wants to talk to her that's a friend of Carol or a friend of her mom, which is most likely going to be Nick Fury, because in Captain Marvel, that's how they all kind of met. So what's your thoughts on those two things there?
I thought, you know, it was a nice setup for Captain Marvel 2, or this, you know, Secret Invasion storyline that might be coming. I think it's mostly for Captain Marvel 2. And I'm excited to see what they do with that. You know, we were told that in Captain Marvel 2, we would see all these Miss Marvels and Captain Marvels kind of join in after the Miss Marvel show. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. With this end credit, you know, I like, there's a lot of hints in this episode of Doctor Strange 2, because Agatha had said, you know, the Scarlet Witch is supposed to be stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme, who we know isn't Doctor Strange yet. He's not the Sorcerer Supreme yet. Right. And then the Darkhold has a chapter all about the Scarlet Witch. So I think, you know, this is going to be a nice segue into Doctor Strange 2, where they have to work together, and maybe he becomes a Sorcerer Supreme and she has to kill him in order, you know, to get her kids, or something with Mephisto, or something with the bad guy. You know, so there's a lot of ways this can go, because they mentioned the whole Sorcerer Supreme line, you know. Yeah. And then a cool thing that, you know, Sanji even mentioned in talking about Agatha's powers, how her power is taking away magic from others, was the same thing that Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange was doing. At the end credits of Doctor Strange, he was killing magic users because he believed no one should have magic. So I think Agatha having that power like that, and Doctor Strange having Baron Mordo, I think that's going to be a nice tie-in with maybe Agatha making a comeback or being taken out by Baron Mordo in the next one. I think that'd be a cool tie-in.
That's going to be crazy, man. Yeah, man, listen, so we're looking forward to the next steps for Marvel. It's going to be amazing. But with this, man, let's just say it, man, this was awesome, man, to see WandaVision. You know, a year without any Marvel movies, Marvel anything, and then to get this just gives me, you know, a lot of hope for what's going to be coming soon, especially with, you know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming in 2 weeks. Then we have Black Widow coming in May. Man, I'm just looking forward to what's next with Marvel, man. This is going to be awesome and amazing. And if you're watching and listening, just know we'll be here to review those things and talk about those shows as well, because they are intertwined with the movies we're going to be watching. So we'll definitely bring them up here. And besides, you guys love the Marvel MCU, so let's do it. Anyway, man, So coming from Long Island, New York, guys, we thank you for listening and watching. Talk about WandaVision episode 9 there. And we'll be back next week. We'll give you some movie reviews and maybe give you a little preview of what's coming with Falcon and the Winter Soldier by doing a little prep there and get you guys up to date on their story and where they're headed before they get into this show. So let's say goodbye. We got my boy Sanj.
Good night, everybody. Be safe out there.
We got my brother B.
Ta Turbo Man.
We got my man in chair Al.
Have a good night, everybody.
And myself, Hav, man, thank you as always for watching, listening. If you are watching, listening, subscribe, talk, comment, email us at therealfanreview@gmail.com. And if you are listening to us on the podcast, make sure you hit that little plus symbol. That way we show up next week for you so you can hear what we have to say about those movies that are coming out this week. All right, guys, have a good night. Until next time.